This conference will now be recorded.
Excellent. So a very warm welcome to everyone on board in our first ever EIiF Information Hour. We have a picked and big full agenda for 1 hour, so I don't want to waste any time. Just motivate you. If you have any questions, please mention your name before you ask the question or use the chat function, and we will then come back to your question. And that's all you need to know for now. For broadcasting quality, we recommend to switch off your camera just to enjoy the best quality in audio and on the screen. And that's mainly it. And like this, I would love to hand over to our president, Peter Hoedemakers, who will do the welcoming and open the first EIiF Information Hour session. Peter.
Yeah, Andrea, thank you very much. You always show this picture where I'm a few years younger, but keep doing that. It looks good. So, welcome to everybody here. Especially welcome, of course, to the EIiF members and their representatives, but of course also to those that are not member but are still very interested in what we're doing and might consider becoming a member. So, Andreas will guide you through a very dense program of our activities of the last, let's say, the last 6 months, last year, and our future activities, so the continuing activities. We made this session because we think we are doing so many exciting stuff that it's a shame when not everybody knows about this. We are very, very active on the Brussels theme, especially on the green program from Mrs. von der Leyen, and so many things are happening. So my role today is just saying hello to you as a president. I hope you enjoy this. I hope it will be entertaining and definitely informative. And so I give the word back to Andreas, who is your guide through the program today. Have some good time.
Thank you very much, Peter. And yeah, let's jump directly into. Many of you know us, but there are some who have not been in touch with EIiF before. So to, in principle, explain who EIiF is, as you saw on the first agenda slide, we are a little bit more than 10 years now, established in 2009. We have about 60 EIiF members. You see in our famous logo bubble that the leading insulation companies in Europe are with us. And let's say the main task and purpose of our foundation is to help industry to save energy and reduce CO2 emissions by initiating concrete projects and installing sustainable insulation systems. And yeah, we will show in this information session, as Peter said before, activities from the past, what we do currently now, and what is planned for the future, to give you a good picture of our activities. And but before we come to that, it's always people. And EIiF, it's the same. We have a very strong and fantastic board represented by these personalities. I don't go too much into detail. You find all the information also on our website. But just to give you a few faces, who is behind this organization. And this is our very much supporting with their knowledge, their expertise, but also with their companies, yeah, and people there helping us as a small team, the three of us, working on a lot of projects. And you will also see in this 1 hour that this only works because of the great cooperation we have with our member companies. So the interaction with member companies, the engagement with our members is really great and delivers. So what you can see here is a little bit of the share of different tasks we do. So TipCheck, of course, the Technical Insulation Performance Check program, which is a thermal energy auditing program. EIiF certifies engineers. We come to more details a bit later. We are developing digital tools which help to organize a TipCheck. We are getting more and more active in standardization. Research, innovation, and education is also on our agenda. And the installation key mark, We took over last year the secretariat and are in the middle of the process of establishing here an organization based in Brussels, and Luis will tell you a bit more about it. And then awareness and advocacy is work where we at the very moment are almost most active in. And my colleague Minna will show and explain to you one of our nicest short-term successes when it comes to the European Commission voting for 55% CO2 reductions. Okay, this as an introduction. The TipCheck program started in 2010, and it was developed with our members, with great engineers like Peter Stuhlen from Hertel, Andreas Regel, at that time Bilfinger, nowadays Bilfinger again, and many more. It's unfair to mention just two, but there's too little time. And continuously improving the whole program. Our technical director, Luis, at that time, was also one of the first TipCheck engineers to be certified, and we are very happy that he's now working with us. What is most important, it has become significantly an important and successful sales tool for companies, and one of our best tools to fulfill our foundation target, because it really initiates projects. So 3 out of 4 clients, 75%, invest or plan to invest after having received a TipCheck report with the results. What is also significant is that we usually find so much projects which offer rapid payback. So the average is 2 years or even less. We have trained more than 200 in the past years to become certified TipCheck engineers. And in total, 2,500 TipChecks have been carried out until today, more or less 500 in industry. So we talk about chemical plants, refineries, bigger breweries, food sector. But also 2,000 have been carried out mainly by one very active company, which is specialized on flexible insulation mattresses to be put around valves, flanges, and this kind of stuff. And they focus very much on hospitals, airports, schools, so HVAC systems, which is very, very interesting also for the smaller insulation enterprises. What we do from our side, Luis gives technical support. So if our TipCheck engineers have a problem, need some consultation, are not sure with how to calculate maybe a special condition or situation, they can always address this to Luis, and Luis is supporting there. We developed the TipCheck calculator, a dedicated and tailored software to compare systems and to identify the most economic insulation solution for the client. And now with the TBI app, we are also supporting with the TBI software, a professional tool, and we will give you more details during this information session today. Just very quickly, TipCheck engineer is limited to EiiF member companies only if you are an insulation expert, and this is for quality assurance. If you are an independent energy auditor, you can participate in the program without the need to become an EiiF member. The reason for that is that we created this rule that our companies can show to their clients that the energy audit is really focused on energy auditing and not first of all on the wish of the offering insulation company to increase the insulation business. And there's always an independent quality control possible if the client wants to have it, to check that we are really looking at energy issues and not at insulation business issues. Okay, looking at the TBI app, and there we get practical now. We are currently further improving it. Well, I don't want to say improve it because it's already mature, but with the expertise and the feedback, people more and more using it, we do see that here and there we could add another nice function to help it. And what you see in development, DT360 is something really, really interesting. We are developing since 2016 in cooperation with a German university. It was funded by the German government, but we will go more into detail later on. What is the TBI app? For those of you who don't know it by now, it's for free. You can download it in the common app stores, and it has been developed as a very easy to use self-inspection tool. So anyone can use it. It offers usually a very conservative estimation of energy losses, shows the potential saving in a nice and almost financial graph. And the saving estimations are given in a range so that you can say between good and basic insulation, you can save either 60 or 70 tons of CO2, depending on what you choose. And as I said before, it's available and you can download it for free. And I will now switch to the tablet to show you the basic use of it. So let me just quickly do that. I have to find, and the tablets here, we have them, make presenter, okay. And share the screen. Okay, perfect. So what you see on the mobile device, no matter if this is a phone or a tablet, it's available for iOS and for Android. You click on the TBI logo. Sorry, I will just quickly close that so that we really start from scratch. Okay, you click on the TBI logo and you see the TBI is starting. First, you are asked to insert your name. I'll do this in a very short form. This is very important because different people can use the same TBI app on the same device. This is interesting for companies. And you will always see who did the report, so that you can, later on, when you look at the TBI report, you can check who did the inspection. What you see here is we are on the project level, and you can see I'm using the GoToMeeting mouse, let's say. You can see that, for example, in the demo project, we did 10 insulation, 2 safety, 3 maintenance, and 2 other projects. But for today, we start with a completely new one. For this, I click on the plus. And let's say, first of all, we take a picture. I use it, or I take it from the gallery to have something nice for this project. We give it a name. I call it info hour. You can define the currency. We stick at euros. You put the energy price, 0.03. CO2 emissions, by pushing this arrow, you get proposed a different kind of fuels, and related to that, the CO2. So we go here and we take 202. And then you can fill in the name of a project leader and so on and forth. But I guess we all know how that works, so I won't do that. And I save the project. Now, looking at the project level, we see the new project info hour. I click on it and I can start with my inspection. What you see here is that you can choose to report either an insulation project, a safety, maintenance, or anything else you would like to report. And of course, we go on insulation. Here you can choose between uninsulated or insulated. In our case, we take uninsulated. Then the tool asks you, are you looking at a pipe, a valve, a flange, or maybe a surface? In our case here, we take a pipe. To make it easy for you to understand what the pipe is, we first take the picture. By clicking on this icon, we can take a picture. I could take a picture just now from my plant, but that doesn't really help us. So I still say, okay. And I click once more on it. I take it out and I take a picture from the gallery, which is a little bit more industrial. So choosing from my gallery, I take this one. Let me know if I'm too fast. I'll make it big. So what you can see here is a typical TipCheck situation. There is a pipe. Some parts are insulated outside, pretty wet, the insulation material, but at some part there is not even insulation left anymore. And this is the situation we are looking at. All I need to do now in the TBI app is to give this a name. I call it pipe. For now, this is good enough. We need to know from the asset owner, our client, is this system operating for how long during the year? 1,000 hours or maybe full year. I'm choosing the full year. The diameter is DN600. So in millimeters, we need to insert 610. The surface material we see is corroded, so I can choose the corroded value for the emissions. The surface temperature we measured 250 degrees, and the ambient temperature is 10. Oops, sorry, 10. Okay. After doing all this, we click on next. Sorry, I forgot the links. That's nice. The tool is so smart that if you make a mistake, it tells you. So we assume, or we estimate this is 3 meters length. And then we click on next. And what you see here now is you get a complete result. The current situation, we are losing 7,400 more or less euros. And we can reduce these losses with a good insulation in place down to 158 euros only, meaning we save between 6,700 and 7,000 euros. But even more important, we can reduce from 50 tons to 1 ton only. And it also shows from an economic aspect how useful this activity or this measure is for the installation client. And that also explains why usually at a TipCheck, the conversion rate is 75%. We then click to the summary, and in the summary, we will get all the results. As we don't have enough time, I will just quickly show you the summary of the demo project, which we did before. And here you see, turning my tablet, that we have created a lot of projects with a lot of information and different reports on safety, maintenance, but also energy efficiency. And in the end, we get the total result of the project with all components calculated together to one. By clicking on the PDF, we get a full TBI report. And I won't do this now, but I want to ask you, if you're interested, please go to the website. It's eiif.org/TBI. You find an example for the TBI report, and you find all the information needed. And if that is not enough, then please don't hesitate to contact Minna, myself, or Luis, and we are more than happy to help you. But we don't have the time now in this meeting to go further into detail. What is absolutely fantastic, and this is our experience, you finish your inspection, you're still in the plant, you click on the PDF, the TBI report is generated, and you can send it by email directly to your client. Before you even exit the plant, he has the full TBI inspection report. And this is very, very good. Okay, then finishing the live presentation, I will hand over to our technical director, Luis Lopez, who will lead you through the next phase. I just need to find him here and make you the presenter, Luis.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and good morning to everybody. Very, very happy to see you all here. I will just go to the presentation mode for the slides. Yeah. Yes, perfect. So in parallel to what Andreas just presented to the TBI app, we have also developed what is called the TBI software, which is a browser-based tool for professional use. It's basically a tool to allow us to administer, to back up our project, where you will able to add more information about your client, for example, where you are going to be able to add extra pictures that you can take, for example, with your infrared camera. So it's a tool that will allow you to organize and to structure your work, but also to upgrade the report that you will offer to your customer. What we start to see now with some TipCheck engineers is that they are getting a structure or organized in their organizations. Like the people on the field, they make the report, and then they send this report to the central department, and in this central departments, they a group, they delete, they work out again this report. They maybe add an economical offer to finally present this report to the final customer. So it's something that, of course, you find all the information in our website, also the prices for non-members and members. And what I can tell you is that it's something new. So we keep developing these two tools in order to reflect what are the needs from the market, and we have the best information provider, which are the TipCheck engineers, and based on that, we are developing new features for the tools. So, for example, now we are working in a multilingual report because we think that the final communication with the customer is good to have it in the local language. So, just to give you an idea how it's going to work, the TBI app will report all the data from the plant, and then in your office, in the central department, they will remake this report, and they could use the local language to communicate with the final user. Okay, now moving to the next point of the agenda. Andreas just presented that we are working on a new study about the potential of insulation in the industry. You probably already read the previous report that was, let's say, the starting point of our foundation, what was called the EIiF study. But we felt that with the new wave of the Green Deal, we had to have updated figures about the potential of our technology. So we decided to use the same methodology that was used in the EIiF report, because in this report, let's say, they managed to gather all the knowledge and all the experience until 2012. So we decided to use the same methodology, but of course, update figures for, first of all, the energy consumption, which is used in the different industries and by country. To do that, we have bought a database for Enerdata, which is a consultancy company that works with some European projects in order to talk the same language of the people in the European Commission. Okay, we have taken into account some new assumptions, because during the last 10 years we have also gathered some good experiences from energy audit. So we have taken into account these new assumptions in the study, and then finally we will provide the potential savings in energy and also the CO2 emission mitigation based on an energy classes defined by the VDI 4610, which is a kind of guideline document which is available in Germany. We have decided to use this methodology because we think it's the best way to communicate with the authorities, and it's the best way to present the performance of our technology. And we will go a little bit later in the next slide, a little bit to present you how what is the meaning of these energy classes. And then finally, what we are going to provide, apart from the general study, is we are going to be able to provide also fact sheets by sector and also by country. So for our members, that will be very useful to work locally in order to increase the awareness of the potential of the industrial insulation. As I said, we have chosen the energy classes as a reference, and more specifically the energy class C for our analysis, because we believe it is the easiest way to communicate about a performance. So the only document which is available regarding energy classes is, as I said, the guideline from Germany, the TBI 4610, where basically they define or they calculate heat losses in relation with the ecological optimum. So the standard, and of course we don't have time to go through that. We have spent quite a lot of time with our TipCheck engineers to explain how it works, and we are more than open to go through that with you too, if necessary. So the standard defines what is called the ecological optimum, which is actually the lower emissions in the life cycle assessment of the solution, not of the product, but of the insulation solution. So you consider the emissions from the manufacturer, you consider also the emissions from the operation, and then you define what is the minimum of the life cycle assessment. And then based on this minimum, the standard defines the different energy classes. Okay, so for these energy classes, there are some heat losses which are associated to this level of performance. And because we believe that this is the best way to communicate and to push the industry to increase their efficiency, we are also working in trying to upgrade this VDI 4610 part 1, the guideline in Germany, in order to upgrade it to an European standard, maybe later also in an international standard. So we have already start some contacts with different standardization bodies, and we hope that in the coming months we are going to have a better picture about this project. That won't be for tomorrow, but maybe we can think that in a year or two they will become an European standard. So what is the situation? And this is something that is, of course, explained in much more detail in our study. But just as a summary, is that we have identified that the good practice in the different countries in Europe are not sufficient to reach the ambitious target of the European Union. Moreover, there are a lot of technical specifications which are not defined on energy efficiency, but just defined or on safety, so personal protection. So they define a surface temperature in order to avoid that a worker get burned. So it makes that the losses that we are having today, as specified in the technical specification, are quite high and lead to high levels of CO2 emissions and high levels of energy consumption. So as you can see in this summary table, this is just an example for a wall at 200 degrees. We see that if we take into consideration this guideline, the energy classes, even the best in class, which is Sweden, they only reach in the best case scenario an energy class C or B. Okay? Then we go to countries like Germany, like France, Netherlands, Spain, and we see that that the level are in general, let's say in average, is something like class F, class E. Okay, so it gives us a lot of room to improve, and this is where we are going to work in the future to try to convince the different administration to show that there is this potential. But apart from that, and this is the most important point, is that many plants in Europe, they are quite old. So we see that there is an important need of maintenance. So in repairing insulation, It means that even though that the technical specification, they are not very performant, in reality, the real performance is much worse because it's not properly maintained, because there are some components that the insulation was fell apart and nobody has replaced it. So what we see is that in reality, the real losses are much higher than the losses that you could calculate with the technical specifications, which are not, as we have seen in the previous chart, which are not very good already. So this is actually our starting point for our study, is to say, okay, we know the technical specifications, how they are. We know that it's not properly maintained, so the losses are higher than what they have in their specifications, and we have taken these values, okay, that comes from our experience, okay, from the experience from the branch in industrial insulation, that says that, for example, at middle temperature, there is 6% of the surfaces which has a system which are damaged or where the insulation is not existent. Okay, so if you look at this, we see that the real potential comes from this part. Okay? So it comes from an insulated part and from a damaged systems, okay, where we also see that they have a very good a payback time, of course, because you gain very quickly the money that you have to invest. And when we see that even economically for the asset owners, it makes a lot of sense to invest on that. Oh, sorry. Okay, so the study, the figures has been already a process. So we know what will be or what is the output of this study. We are just working in the document to add all the graphical part and working in all these fact sheets for countries and for sector. And what we have identified is just regarding to emissions is that we could offer up to 40 million tons of CO2, which is a very important figure, and which resound a lot when we talk with people from the European Commission. And sorry. And apart from this 40 millions of tons of CO2 emissions, they come from, as explained before in the study, they come from a reduction in the energy consumption. So what we have calculated in the study is what we can save if we upgrade our insulation systems. So doing all this calculation, we ended up that we could save for the industry in Europe up to 40 million tons of equivalent oil, which represent, and this is very very impressive. We were all very amazed and surprised about this potential, because it represents 10% of the gap that we need to get to reach the 2030 target. So if you look at the chart, today what we are consuming in Europe is 989 million tons of equivalent oil. We know that the target in 2030 are 846 million tons of equivalent oil, and we can provide savings of 40 million tons of equivalent oil. So it represents 10% of this way to go to reach the final target set by the European Commission. And as I said, we have all these figures split by sectors and split by country. right? So we can even approach some European association, for example, for steel manufacturing, and try to convince them, to convince their members to at least have a look at the technical specification that they are using today in the industry. Thank you.
Very good, Luis. Thank you very much. Is there any question from the audience to the study and the study results so far? No? Good. So then we enter the last 20 minutes of this information hour and session today. And from all this theory, let's jump a little bit more into practice, which should not say that the theory is just a theory. So first of all, we are trying really here to do a very dedicated job. And there's, for example, a senior TipCheck engineer, Stefan Reichinger. There's Alberto as a senior TipCheck engineer. And they have been helping us a lot in developing these figures, in proving that all the assumptions and ways we do are good. And I'm pretty proud to say that the job Luis is doing here, based on the EcoFIS methodology, but of course, with all the influence of the experience of 2,500 TipChecks, this report is even better than what was done in 2012, which is really something to work and build on. So let's go into practice and take one of the examples, another TipCheck engineer, which is Patrick Dallens from Bilfinger here in Switzerland. He went into a plant in Switzerland and identified a typical situation. So looking at the DN150 uninsulated valve, temperature and the energy input here to keep the 150 degrees Celsius is about 10,600 kilowatt hours, and as the system is operating and running all year. So you can imagine if you don't put insulation around this valve, these 10,600 kilowatt hours just fly away, what we try to illustrate in this graphic. What Patrick then said, let's put a box around it. And this was the demographic image of his inspection. And he said, if I put a box around it, and this is an energy class G box even, so this is a very standard solution, we can reduce the energy loss from 10,600 by 10,000 kilowatt hours down to 600 kilowatt hours only. And his idea was, what can I do with this thermal heat, which I'm saving with the 10,000 kilowatt hours? And here I would like to ask you to, in a short second, to use the chat function. So what Patrick said was, okay, I transfer the 10,000 kilowatt hours thermal heat with a 40% thermodynamic efficiency into electricity, and I use it to charge the battery of an electric car. Those of you who fancy cars may know which kind of car this is. And what we would like to ask you now, and please fill it in the chat function, we give you a minute for that. How far do you think you can drive by just insulating one valve with a standard box? Do you get 5,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers, or let's say a free ride ticket for the entire year because it will drive you 20,000 kilometers? Okay, please use the chat function. I'll give you a little bit of time. I see the first ones flying in, 2, 3, 4, perfect. More, please. 20, 10, 20, 10. So for now, we have a share between 20 and 10. And I can tell you, it is amazing 20,000 kilometers. And I had this first meeting with the Dean and German engineers. And I can tell you, one of them was completely freaking out when I told the story. And he said, with insulating one box, you get maximum 200 kilometers only. And he actually finally recalculated, and he forgot to multiply by 100 kilometers, what you see here in the calculation. So you take the 4,000 kilowatt hours energy, multiply it with 18, or divided by 18 consumption, multiplied by 100. You can be sure it has been recalculated by many people. Also FIW Munich, they couldn't believe it, and they recalculated 3 times. It is 20,000 kilometers. So this is the potential. And then just think about what we always find at our TipCheck services. This is pictures from some of them. a lot of equipment which is not insulated. It could be valves, it could be flanges, you see manholes. That's the typical situation in almost any plant you go worldwide. And if you look worldwide, for example, a refinery in big one in the United States can have up to 28,000 just valves. Look at the flanges. The number in a let's say a bit smaller average refinery is 5,000 something. If you multiply that with 20,000 kilometers, you can drive a lot of Teslas or whatever kind of electric car you want to use, and you get pretty far. Another example from our TipCheck engineer and Vice President Michele Manucci was that he received the job to remove the corroded roof of a storage tank, which after years with no maintenance had these big corrosion problems, and there was the danger that the roof would fall inside the tank. And he was asking the client, but who's putting the new roof? Who will apply the insulation? And the client told him, I don't put insulation anymore. It's just a 60 degrees Celsius tank, and I want to avoid any corrosion issues in the future. Being a very good senior TipCheck engineer, Michele explained to him the consequences and convinced him to do something. So again, the temperature was 60 degrees. The volume of the tank is 87,000 cubic meters. The surface of the roof has the size of a soccer field, and the energy loss without insulation would have been 9,500 megawatt hours, emitting almost 2,000 tons of CO2 and a money loss in his financial budget of 240,000 euros he would have had to pay additionally as energy cost. Insulated with a 30 millimeter, which is equivalent to the energy class G system, Michele convinced him that he could apply a system which is has a very high corrosion protection, but will also save him annually about 185,000 euros, energy-wise 7,500 megawatt hours, and in total reduces the CO2 emissions by 1,500 tons. So that was a pretty good and successful TipCheck activity here, convincing the client. There is a lot of studies available now. There's one Dutch study from Renate van Maren, I think, if I'm correct. Maybe Hans, you can help me. You will know that better.
No, it's not Renate van Maren. She will use it as an example. But the author of this report is Martine van der Post.
Thanks. And exactly. Renate is the new manager of NTTI. Perfect. Yeah. And she's with us. Hi, Renate.
And Martine van der Post has her own website where you can download the report, and it is called www.postfossil.nl.
Maybe Hans, you can type it in the chat, and then everybody has it available. That would be great.
Good idea.
And also in the last Terminator, which is the magazine of the German Technical Association, there is a very interesting report about insulation coatings, explaining that they don't really have an insulation effect, and the same topic. So there's literature available, and as Hans is there, also with Rudolf Jürke, who is our board member and the president of FISI, we are planning to get those reports about the big potential in storage farms together and condense them to one, let's say FISI study on the specific energy efficiency potential in storage tank farms. Okay, so going from there to the next slide, we see, and this is what we use in Brussels, that in industry, there are very different ideas about insulation than in the building context. So comparing a hot water storage tank with an oil storage tank, both have 60 degrees. You won't find in the market any hot water storage tank in a building which is lower than an energy class A. Looking at the storage tank and the solution which was applied, we talk about an energy class G, which has still 400 tons of CO2 emissions, but as I showed before, is saving 1,500, so much better than nothing. But from a technical perspective, it would easily be possible to upgrade the storage tank roof to an energy class A, and with this reduce the CO2 emissions down to 75 tons only, instead of 1,900. And we can see this big potential here, which is just waiting out there to be picked up. If we compare energy class with energy class G and energy class A, and here you see it's a 30 millimeter against a 200 millimeter insulation, we see the big differences in reduced CO2 emissions. Okay, the benefits are very clear, and I will go through this as we have 10 minutes left rather fast. So we will, with all these activities, we can cut significantly the annual CO2 emissions. Luis explained it in detail in the study. We reduce energy consumption in industry by 40 million tons of oil equivalent. For Europe, this contributes to the Green Deal and the green recovery. And for industry, it's increasing the competitiveness. This is not a burden. This is a real added value. It offers investments with very rapid and fast payback, and it creates a safer and better working conditions. So it's a clear win-win-win for anyone involved. And of course, with EiiF, we are promoting this message. And this brings me to my colleague Minna, who will give you a quick introduction into our advocacy activities where we use all these figures. Minna.
Thank you. Sorry. So on this slide, we show you a small selection of our advocacy activities. We are very active on that front, and this is a must be at the moment, of course, to reach the climate targets. For instance, we participate actively in different consultations. Andreas, our foundation director, has actually been invited to participate in the EED Article 8 workshop. He will be working with the member states, and this, us being based in a non-EU country, it's of course great. And also we are finalizing our white paper. You can see the picture here. It's the one on the left. It should be available next week. It is an online document, and it explains in just about 10 pages and with the reading time of only 10 minutes how industrial insulation can provide the 10% energy savings that are needed to reach the 2030 target. And we also signed, yes, that was a bit quick, but yeah, we have signed several letters supporting the emissions reduction targets. And the highlight was definitely this CEO letter. It was organized by the Corporate Leaders Group, and with the aim to put more pressure on the decision makers to increase the emissions reduction target. And this was even mentioned in the European Commission President's speech in September, where they proposed, or she informed that the European Commission proposes to increase the target to 55%, and that was great. And for the letter to be mentioned, we are proud because, next slide, please. Out of the 185 signatories, this may have increased since I last checked. There were 23 EiiF member companies on it, and we were even congratulated by the Corporate Leaders Group. Of course, since then, the European Parliament has voted for a 60% reduction, and this is really great news, but the work is not done yet because the EU 27 has to still vote to accept. This, I think, brings us to the EED Article 8, and Andreas, since he's part of this working group, will explain in just a few words.
Okay, thank you very much, Minna, and thank you to all of you and all our members who really are getting more and more active and engaged, and it was a very quick response to the CEO letter, and we really see the impact. It's not just being a member, it's actively shaping our future. That's what we can see here. Yeah, what Minna said is I was invited to a very interesting workshop with member states on the revision of the Article 8, where we discussed how to improve it, that it delivers better to the Green Deal. We are, Luis and I, regularly participating in the EED Industrial Emissions Directive Article 13 forum meetings, and of course, there with the white paper and everything we are developing now, we have strong arguments to go for higher ambitions because we can show there is potential also in industry. Just as a quick summary, you see today we have decided on European level about 40% reductions for CO2 emissions until 2030. Now on the floor, as Minna just presented, the Commission said, let's increase these ambitions to 55%, but the Commission can only propose. Secondly, the European Parliament on 7 October said, we go even beyond the 55 at least. We say we need at least 60% of CO2 emission reductions until 2030, which is for the first time in the last 11 years since EIiF is engaged in advocacy work, that they go for higher levels than what was before. But we are not there yet, as Minna said. The European Council, where we have the heads of member states to decide what is the target in the end. So this is the most important level in Brussels we need to talk to and show that there is significant potential, which is even cost effective and easy to tap with today's available technologies. And we will have an online meeting with the cabinet of the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. And I just put here, for those of you who are not so often in contact with the European institutions, the role of the European Council and the name of the President. So we have a meeting there, and we will present the white paper in this 1 hour meeting to explain that also from an industrial perspective, going for a higher ambition, at least 55, even better 60%, that this is absolutely doable. Okay, as we're running out of time, I try to speed up a bit in the sense that we are looking here, what Luis said also in the very beginning, standardization has become a very important project, and I'm super happy that we had already 2 meetings with the AGI. It's the Arbeitsgruppe in the Industriebau. It's led by BASF, and as you can see, we already have first concepts developing inspection routines for industrial installation, meaning that there will be a neutral paper which, based on the risk level, on the situation of an insulated equipment, we can recommend to inspect it either every 2 years, every 3 years, every 5 years, depending on the situation. This is a very, very interesting project, and it will, of course, have a significant impact on how industry looks at insulation and insulated systems in the future. So this is one of our highest priority. Another one, and it's a pity that we are running out of time because I could talk a lot about it, but instead of talking a lot about it, I will just show you. And if you want to know more about the technology behind, please don't hesitate to get in touch. What you see here is almost 3D, but it's much faster, much cheaper, and very easy to use. So what you get is actually a picture of, like in this case, a heating room. And after using the devices for 15 minutes, pushing a button for the digital camera, pushing a button for the thermographic camera, you end up with a complete infrared and digital picture explaining to you in a very short time and in a very illustrative way immediately where the hotspots are. And for example, here on this steam producer on the top level, we can even zoom in. You see there are manholes which are not insulated. And as soon as the tool is developed to the end, you can even measure the temperature here in your software program. So this is one of the inspection digital tools developed with the Fachhochschule Würzburg-Schweinfurt. We started the project as the EDIAN project in 2016. And it had a second phase, which is now called the thermohead, which is the infrared camera. And you can see that the quality of the pictures is simply too detailed. You can almost read the pressure here on this device. If you want to know more, please don't hesitate and get in touch with us. It's a very, very interesting tool to use. Okay, I need to get out here. The KeyMark Secretariat, Luis, you asked me to skip. I think we just tell you we are running the Insulation KeyMark Secretariat. we are actually developing and establishing an organization called TIAC, Terminal Installation Association for Quality, located in Brussels, which takes care of the KEMAG Quality Assurance Committee. Also here, as we are running out of time, if you need and want to know more, you know where to find Luis, myself, or Mina, and we are more than happy to give you more information about this. And with this, the 1 hour is over, but there should still be time for any questions you may have. I would ask you just to speak out loud and mention your name maybe before you ask the question. And like this, we can have a quick Q&A session. Any questions? Perfect. Well, then we are even on time. And as said before, this information session was recorded. We will make it available on our website. Most likely, we will do some communication activity on LinkedIn, and you can forward it. So if there's anyone who wants to know a bit more about our current activities and what EiiF is working on, you can forward, of course, this link, and they can watch the recorded session whenever they want. A big thank you to Luis and Mina for the preparation. A big thank you to you all for listening to us for 1 hour and participating in this meeting. And we are really looking forward to an exciting time until the end of the year, and of course, what the future may bring. So stay healthy. Thanks a lot for joining us today, and enjoy your weekend. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and
Thank you very much. Bye.
interesting presentation, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Have a nice
Thank
weekend.
Nice weekend.
Thank you, Andreas. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.